Blake Lively's legal war with director Justin Baldoni didn't just spiral, it detonated. What started as a quiet dispute over a film's creative direction erupted into one of the most bizarre, theatrical, and public implosions in modern Hollywood history. At the center, Blake, determined to control every piece of the production. Around her, a wreckage of lawsuits, shell companies, PR disasters, and scorched industry relationships. Let's rewind. It began innocently enough. Blake, fresh off her rom-com legacy and eager to pivot into more serious roles, signed on to star in It Ends With Us, an adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel. Justin Baldoni, the earnest, affable director known for Jane the Virgin and his sensitive storytelling, was at the helm, but from the moment cameras started rolling, it was clear this wouldn't be a typical production. Behind closed doors, tension simmered. According to multiple insiders, Blake wasn't just interested in acting. She wanted control, total control, casting decisions, costume design, lighting preferences, on-set protocols, even rumored input on musical score. Sony, the film's distributor, had backed her casting, but Wayfarer Studios, Baldoni's company, and the actual rights holder had final say. When Baldoni allegedly denied her access to the dailies, the raw, unedited footage, Blake's frustration boiled over. That denial became the spark that lit the powder keg. Suddenly, what had been a private creative disagreement turned into a legal maelstrom. She didn't file just one lawsuit, she filed a barrage. Legal actions began popping up in California, then New York, then Georgia. Each motion seemed less about justice and more about theater. Subpoenas were served like party invitations. Her lawyers worked overtime, filing so many emergency motions that one judge, Louis J. Lyman, joked, "If she files another one this week, we'll need a separate court calendar just for her." Judge Lyman would go on to reject 3 motions from her team in a single week, accusing them of weaponizing civil procedure for dramatic effect. He wasn't wrong. Her filings read less like legal arguments and more like scripts, long on flair, short on facts. It was legal performance art, and the courtroom had become her stage. Among the strangest developments was her now infamous Banan Inke or stunt. Blake filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles through this mysterious shell company, except the lawsuit didn't name any defendants. Legal analysts were dumbfounded. "This is like suing the universe," one attorney commented. Another said, "It's the legal equivalent of screaming into the void." Some theorized it was a placeholder suit designed to intimidate or distract. Others saw it as a media tactic, but whatever the intent, it backfired. Judges hate being used as pawns in PR games. And this wasn't a one-time lapse. Blake's filings increasingly showed a pattern: scattershot allegations, vague claims of mistreatment, zero substantive evidence. As the court battles raged, the media blitz began. When Baldoni skipped the It Ends With Us premiere, the rumors started. A few days later, tabloids exploded with headlines about Blake being fat-shamed on set and receiving an inappropriate kiss. The story painted her as the wounded heroine standing up to a powerful director, but behind the scenes, it was all too calculated. Leaks traced back to Blake's inner circle. Former publicists and assistants hinted that she orchestrated the whole campaign, seeding stories, guiding narratives, and trying to cast Baldoni as a misogynist villain. One former team member anonymously claimed she was writing her own redemption arc, like literally writing it out on her phone. The stories made headlines, but also raised eyebrows. The kiss story didn't line up with set reports. The fat-shaming incident was vague, never corroborated. And then came the Jed Wallace debacle, the 30K PowerPoint plot twist. In one of the most unintentionally hilarious twists, Blake accused Baldoni of hiring a PR assassin named Jed Wallace, a media strategist at Street Relations. She claimed Wallace masterminded a smear campaign against her. One problem, Wallace wasn't hired until August 9th, 2 days after the negative headlines she was complaining about. Her proof? A proposal from Wallace's firm offering a $30,000 a month crisis management plan. But it was just that, a proposal, a pitch deck. There were no receipts, no signed contracts, just a standard document listing generic PR services like reputation management and media engagement. Blake acted like it was a smoking gun. It wasn't. It was a menu, and she was pointing at the appetizers like someone had poisoned her dinner. She also brandished a second proposal, a $175,000 mega package for social media monitoring and fanbase engagement, as evidence of conspiracy. That one hadn't been accepted either. In fact, no one at Wayfair even replied to the email. At this point, judges and media alike began to notice a pattern. Blake mistook potential for proof. Emails, edits, and legal gymnastics. Desperate to sway the court, Blake leaked selected emails and screenshots to the press. Threads she claimed supported her story, but under scrutiny, they fell apart. The emails were out of context. Some were from months earlier, unrelated to the claims she was making. Many were missing full headers or had been selectively redacted. Judge Lyman slammed her team for presenting data without narrative coherence. Translation: this is nonsense. He reminded her that to win a defamation claim, one needs to prove not just a lie, but a malicious one. Blake had neither. Still, she persisted. As her case crumbled, Blake went scorched earth. She subpoenaed former Wayfarer staff, PR contractors, even unpaid interns. Her legal team sent notice after notice, demanding phone logs, private DMs, Slack threads, anything that could give the appearance of a conspiracy. She even subpoenaed Wayfarer's legal team, Brian Friedman's firm, demanding confidential emails and internal billing records. Friedman's response? A fiery motion to quash, accusing Blake of harassment. The court agreed. Blake's attempt to access Wayfair's internal investigation files was also swiftly denied. Her argument that Wayfair's affirmative defense, stating they had addressed her concerns, meant they had waived privilege. Judge Lyman's response was icy. That's not how the law works. That's not how anything works. As the legal battles dragged on, the fallout spilled into her career. Netflix quietly pulled her special, Conversations with Courage, from its July 2nd release slate. No fanfare, no explanation, just vanished. Insiders later revealed the streamer wanted nothing to do with ongoing litigation. Sony, which once championed her, stopped returning calls. Rumors of It Ends With Us too disappeared. Blake had tried to leap from actress to creative mogul, but instead of channeling Reese Witherspoon or Margot Robbie, she had turned herself into a cautionary tale, the court of public opinion. Turns on her podcast, comedian Whitney Cummings summed up the Hollywood mood. She's like that mom who brings cupcakes to school, but then screams at the teacher because they were served out of order. The internet piled on. TikTok exploded with video essays titled Blake's Legal Breakdown and When PR Backfires. She thought the same charm that won over red carpets would work in courtrooms. It didn't. Legacy of the meltdown. In the end, Blake Lively didn't just lose a lawsuit, she lost the benefit of the doubt. She became the punchline to her own power grab. Not because she fought back, but because she fought recklessly, because she weaponized sympathy, because she turned real legal systems into tools of her vanity. The real tragedy? There was talent beneath the chaos, a sharp mind, a good eye for detail, an instinct for narrative, but instead of using that to build, she tried to conquer. And Hollywood, while messy, fickle, and often unfair, knows the difference. Blake Lively thought she could control the spotlight, but in the end, the spotlight moved on. And she was left standing alone, still performing for an audience that had already left the theater.